What's going on, everybody? FYB presents Wise Word Wednesdays, a quick live stream to help you get closer to accomplishing your dreams. I'm your host, Joe Spider, and I do represent the Fresh. Listen, we got another great episode for you today, and I'm going to bring up somebody that's basically another co-host to the show who I see right now that he's chilling with his son. So I'm going to just say, what's going on, Corn? How you doing?
Hey.
Hey,
Say hi,
how you
everybody.
living? What's going on?
Talk
You
to
feeling
me.
good? Yeah, I love it. I love it. Looking like twins over there. Looking
All right.
like twins.
Say bye, everybody.
Bye, buddy.
Bye. Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. All right.
How you feeling, Corn?
What's going on? What's going on, my brother? What's going on?
Man, that was amazing sight to see right there. I'm telling you, y'all twins, bro. Y'all
Yeah.
twins.
Got lucky.
Man. So we got in a very important conversation that we're going to have today in regards to just crucial conversations, right? No pun intended. But I think that, oftentimes people don't recognize the importance of who to talk to, how they even talk to those individuals, and what's being said during the actual conversations and how that can impact, their future. So as we getting started here, if you could do me a favor and just let's start off with who to talk to, right? Like, and obviously it varies based on based on the different avenues or pathways that you're going. But let's start with that, man. What do you think in regards to crucial conversations that you want the people to know? And let's start with, like I said, with who to talk to.
Yeah. So can I answer that and just go back really quick, but and
Yeah.
then get to who to talk to? So
Of course.
we're gonna talk about just a brief model. I took notes just to consider when we're talking about crucial conversations, and what we mean by crucial conversations are, conversations that need to be had that they may appear to be some type of attention, miscommunication, or communication in itself, right? And that there's some value, good or bad, if you will. There's some consequences if these conversations don't happen, right? So that's one thing we have to understand about crucial conversations. So it's not just this idea of it's important. Sure, it's important, but the premise behind it is the value add or the value taken based on the conversation, which makes it crucial, right? So that first.
Right.
Another thing that we want to consider is, what do we want the outcome to be when we have a crucial conversation? Like, so going into it, what do you want? And a lot of this is around self-awareness. We'll get to that. Also, we talked about the value of the relationship. So if the value of the relationship, and this kind of gets to what you're talking about, if the value of the relationship may not be worth to you, then it's fair to say, and it's safe to say, that a crucial conversation is not necessary, right? Because when there's a value in that relationship, then you should take the time to say, hey, you know what, this is how I'm feeling, and I trust that we can be in the safe place. So you heard me use that term a lot. Also, you also have to be aware of facts, your feelings, and then hearing others' perspective. Because go ahead.
That right there is that. Hey, yo, hold up. Yo, I think a lot of people mess up right there, right? Just being aware of facts and versus your feelings, like that can shift a lot of people's future or direction, because they're choosing to operate in based on their emotion, right? Or based on temporary situation.
Yeah. So go back to your first question, or who to talk to, right? So and that's fair to say, because a lot of times we learn about crucial conversations when we hear about them. At least in the world I'm coming from, it's the direct. You're talking to someone because there's some type of, again, like some kind of tension there, if you will, right? But to your point, you're saying, well, who do you talk to? Because sometimes that crucial conversation needs to happen because you either want to learn more, or there's something that you're not getting. So you're trusting that person, if I'm understanding you correctly. And so, one, if you value that person's opinion, their relationship, of course, you need to talk to them. But then, you as the listener, now here's where it gets really important. You as a listener What are you choosing to listen to? Are you choosing to listen to the things that are just easy for you to grasp? Or are you listening to the things, you can do both, or are you listening to the things that I really don't like that? So let's okay. Go back to how you're talking to me where I feel important. Go back to talking to me about how all these good things that I'm doing. But if you're gonna start talking about the things that I don't like, you tell me I need to work on this because you observe this, and I'd rather give you some excuse and say uh, something to the effect of but this happened, or but this. Well, like, no, let's sit with these things, right?
Well,
Going back
I think
to your
just I think a lot of people, they only listen when it's to their benefit. Like or not even to their benefit, because I'll say a lot of people will typically only listen when it favors their opinion. Let me say that as opposed to their benefit. Because if I was like, hey, like, you might want to not go this way because that's going to be a direction you don't want to end up in the future, that's to their benefit, but it doesn't favor their opinion right now. So that's when they're like, I don't care what you got to say. I'm gonna do what I want. And then they still end up in the place that they weren't supposed to end up in the long run. So that's why I say I think people tend to shut out information or support or resources or conversations when it doesn't benefit them based on their current opinion.
sure. I mean, look what we're asking people to do. We're asking people to do something out their norm. So the minute we say, hey, try to do something different, you're asking me to change my whole perspective of how I collect data in my mind, how I make decisions. You're asking me to do something that's going to take more brain power. You know, that's why what we talk about has to be in practice rather than just by the words. And again, this is why I appreciate the conversation that we have, because yeah, we're giving you tools, but we also want you to practice these as well too. So, for example, I'll just use the framework. So if you ever get a chance to check out the ladder of inference, and I use this in my classroom a lot, and it's funny because I teach in several states, and um, recently I used the example of, hey, if you see a guy wearing all red from head to toe, and he has a red bandana on the left side, about one college I did this at, about 95% of the students said he's a gang member and he's a blood. And I said, what I said was, I'll say, according to the ladder of inference, the data points that you hold on to, or that you held on to, was the red of everything. I said, but what you probably didn't know, right, when it comes to making decisions or assumptions, is that we know left from right if you know the game, right?
Mhm.
So my point is, so let's take that concept and go back to what you're saying about uh, it may be beneficial to them, but they're not listening because
Right.
they're choosing the data points that's low hanging fruit for them
Right.
to make those assumptions. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
definitely agree 100%.
Yeah.
I think some of the things that not only just myself, but I think other people as well, some of the listeners uh potentially struggle with is, and I feel like we're steering a little bit away from the conversation, but I still want to, but I just think it's
Mhm.
important to touch on right now, is struggling with trying to convince people versus just saying, you know what, this is a mistake you have to make, right? And because I think that I don't struggle with it as much anymore, but I used to struggle like with trying to prove to people that I know that I'm right when I know that I'm like, but I take it now. It's like if there's a person arguing with me about the sky being blue, I'm not gonna sit here and waste 2 hours explaining to him that the sky is actually blue. Like,
Sure.
I'm going to, you know what? If you say the sky is burgundy, you know what? Cool. Or you say the sky is pink, cool. Even though we all can look up and see that it's blue, you know what? That's fine. That's your prerogative. Whereas a lot of people are like, especially given the fact that we're on social media, a lot of people are trying to like force their opinions on somebody or even force somebody. And I don't know if you watch the Joe Budden podcast or anything like that, but right now on social media, Joe Budden's a former rapper. Well, he's a rapper, but he has a podcast.
Mhm.
And there's this guy, I think his name is Ice, on the podcast, and he's arguing. I think he just argues to be arguing, almost like a contrarian, right? But he was arguing. I think he was arguing with this scholar about the Earth being flat or versus round, right? And it was like, and I think sometimes people spend so much time trying to convince people that they're right, even though this is a known, some things are known facts, right? And so I think we struggle with that.
So let's take a step back. And I love your enthusiasm about this topic and what we're saying. So let's use the sky is blue example with someone that you're speaking with, right? So one thing I heard you say is that I know the sky is blue. I'm not gonna waste my time to kind of convince you that the sky is blue, right? So my first thing to say to everyone is, and I said this already, and I'll repeat it, is when you're going into a crucial conversation, what outcome do you want if you
Mm,
decide to go into it? So that's what you have to even know first and foremost. Because once you decide to engage, you're deciding, okay, this is what I want.
right.
Now, what we talk about in crucial conversation is what we try to mitigate is the idea of winning and losing. There's no value in winning and losing in crucial conversations, because if you go with the value of winning and losing, then you're getting to the debates, and then you lose. No one feels safe anymore to
Right.
have to
It's
talk.
a lot of people that won conversations and ain't got nobody or no work to show for it. So you could win and you could be right and by yourself, or you could get support and have some folks and be wrong.
Now watch this. And so now let's say you do decide to go into the conversation about the sky is blue because you have a desired outcome. Again, let's assume perfect world that you're not. It's not about the right or wrong. It's just you want to go. You have a value. You have an outcome with this. Then you have to say, okay, what is my relationship with this person? So corn, like you're telling me the sky is burgundy, and I'm telling you it's blue. If you already took the first stage of engaging, the question is, if you value our relationship, what is the best way to have the conversation?
Mm,
What's the best way to do that? Right? And I think that's where a lot of us, like, we're talking about all things being perfect. We're not saying, hey, the facts show this, the facts say that. Like, that's not what this is about. Or it can be, but what we're trying to understand is, I think what we need to do better is, like, how do we welcome people to the conversation without them feeling judged, intimidated? Like, if I say, oh, the sky is burgundy, and you laugh and give me all these facts, well, I may not want to talk to you again because
right.
you're telling me, right? So facts come in crucial conversations when it's, hey, you offended me. Remember that time on Saturday about noon, we were at the thing, and you said I wasn't real in our fraternal world. I wasn't a real person. Like, that really hurt my feelings. And you could say, like, you know what? I hear you. That wasn't my intent. A conversation like that is not easy to get to because we have all these preconceived notions in our head. And so the thing that we have to start doing is unwrapping all that. Try to unwrap it. Build that new mile in when we talked about learning new things. Take a step back. Hey, you know what? What do I really want out of this conversation? One. And if I do want something out of this conversation, I want to go forward. What is my relationship with this person, or vice versa? I'm not. To your point, you're saying this correctly. Do I value the relationship enough to even go in detail with it? Like, is this person? Am I going to see this person for the rest of my life? Is this worth my engagement? Right. That's huge, because then that sets the tone of what's really going to happen. Now, here's the cool thing about it. Let's use the blue and burgundy sky concept. We should be okay to not agree. Not not
Yeah. See.
not agree. Not the idea of what the color is. We're talking about the relationship of us.
Yeah, I think that's where the whole social media is missing, right?
Mm,
The the idea that people can have different opinions or different perspectives on one thing and it can be respected and we can have dialogue. I think a lot of like social media has caused people, and I think I'm using social media as an example just because it's the way that many people are communicating nowadays.
As you should, as you
But I
should.
think
You're
that
doing
it
a good job.
translates into their own personalities as well too, and how they communicate in person, right? So I think that because a lot of people are so accustomed to communicating via social media, I think they're losing the skill set of how to communicate in person, right? As from face to face. But let's stick to the social media aspect of it, right?
Okay.
Like I think a lot of people, they're struggling, right? Because on social media, the goal seems to be I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right, you're saying you're right, which means that I'm wrong, right? As opposed to saying like, hey, bro, like, listen, this I'm saying the sky is blue, you're saying the sky is burgundy. Well, maybe we're in two different states.
Mm,
Maybe the sky looks like a different color over where you at, and the
sure.
sky looks like a different color versus where I'm at. And so there is no right or wrong. It's just, oh, okay, I hear you. You're saying the sky is blue. What if the person is colorblind? What if they see different shades of gray and they saying the sky is gray? And I'm like, no, bro, it's blue, right? What if you know what I mean? So there's all these different things that I think play into how a person perceives something, right? Which ultimately changes how they're communicating too. But I think what I've learned is accept a person's, reality, right, to a certain degree, but also not try to convince someone of my reality. You know what I mean? Like if I know that I'm a great person, I don't have to spend my time on social media trying to convince people that I'm a great person.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Because the people who actually know me,
Mhm.
i.e. the corns, right? The friends, the frats, the people that the community that I'm actually in, they know it to be true. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, it's different if we're talking about business and marketing and things like that. But as far as generally being a good person, I don't have to market that. And I'm not going to spend my time, because there's some times where I've posted some stuff on my page, on my Wise Word Wednesdays, that people be like, don't agree. And I think that's perfectly fine, because this message isn't for you. This message is for the person that needed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So think about it. So go back. So we talked about this too. People tend to take your content and put it in their context.
Mm,
It doesn't mesh, right? And you have to understand, social media allows you to have conversations with yourself that you believe to be true. Should you take that route? So that means I can look at an algorithm so many times and give me everything that I believe in. It supports what I believe in, right? And so the minute someone disagrees or someone has a different opinion, my first strike is to let's just use the word attack, or just to go say no, you're wrong,
right.
right? That's again. So let's go back. That's cultured in us. That's just people in general. Crucial conversations is something like it curtails all that. You can't have a crucial. I won't say can't. You will not be able to have an effective crucial conversation online, because the you won't be able to see the person's actions, body language when they're saying things to you. I can say my bad, and you can. What is he being sarcastic? Is he being serious? Right? Social media won't allow you to get that, if you will. But then, then, no, going back to social media again. Go back to the ladder of inference. That's like the most simplest tool, one of the simplest, and I mean this in a good way. That people who are listening, or people out there, like, yo, look at what data points are you selecting. Remember, the guy had the flag on the left side. He's not a blood, right? So what? But you assume that he was, based on what he was wearing. So knowing that, not knowing that, what data points are you choosing to go into your conversation with, right? Again, not about right or wrong, but more or less what you said about, well, the sky is blue here, but you know, you might be in Hawaii where you've seen all different shades of the sky, right? So we're not looking at, that's the example of what I'm saying. We need to assess these data points, uh, when we're deciding to go into a crucial conversation. Um, but I really, in terms of social media, I think the point that really drives home to me with people, and it's not a bad thing. I'm not. I don't judge. It's just that you have the ability to make a comment and leave, right? And so these are a lot of things that we're not taking into account that can what's the word, that can hurt you, that can do a lot of things to people, right? And I'm not judging. I don't know the words of people, so I'm not judging that. But if we're talking about a crucial conversation and how social media influences that, my thought is that it moves us away from that. It's moving us away from feeling safe to talk to each other because those opinions are already so deeply rooted. So therefore, it doesn't even matter what I want to talk about. I mean, here's a great example. You ever watch those conversations on social media where people are debating, or like the CNN panels, and people are debating and they get nowhere?
Yeah, those are a waste of time.
So because they get nowhere, right? All you do is just hear all these words or everything that's going on, right?
Yeah,
That's originally, panels weren't meant to do that, first and foremost, and two, we're not learning anything because we're not having a conversation. No one's listening to one another.
right.
And that's the important part of a crucial conversation.
It's more like talking at each other as opposed to listening. And I say this a lot of times. I think I've said this before on one of my Wise Word Wednesdays. It's like it's the difference between listening to understand versus listening to respond.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, especially on social media, a lot of people are literally listening to something so that they can say their response. They're
Mhm.
like, I'm going to pick apart this, this, and this, and this, versus what I've learned, right, is to listen to understand so that I can ask myself, do I understand where this person is coming from?
Mhm.
Can I put myself in this person's shoes? And if the answer is yes, okay, cool. Now that I could put myself in this person's shoes, then you can get to the do I agree or disagree, right? That's when you can kind of make that thing. But definitely, I hear you on that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's even what's even more deep. Like, you got to feel safe to talk to the person.
Right.
Think about it. Like, you see these panels on this social media stuff. Like, these people are not. They don't feel safe to let their guard down and say, "Hey, like, what's really going on?" They're straight for the attack. They have
Yeah.
their notes ready to attack, attack, attack. And you're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, like, and you can. I don't. It appears that the level of care about their relationships with one another, it doesn't seem high.
It's crazy because so Tori actually just commented a few minutes ago. People take everything personally these days. If they read something and they don't agree with it, they have to give their opinion when they could have just read it and kept going. Man, I will listen. I do that so much on the internet. Like because I'm a comment creeper. I will really, I literally, but I be in the comments all the time. If there's a post that's any remotely controversial, I'm looking at the comments. I'm looking to see what people are saying. And I try to look for a minute so that way I get not just the ones that the algorithms want me to see, but also the ones that they're trying to hide from me. I try to look at those too as much as I can. But I usually just read them and keep it pushing. Like sometimes I'll laugh and be like, wow. But people act like you have to respond to something that you disagree with.
You know what? I found powerful through social media. I've been with friends and family that I do love and care about. I've been able to have crucial conversations with them about these topics because I do feel safe with them. So if we're talking about scrolling like you are, I'm saying, hey, you know what? Someone made a comment about this. I don't know how I feel about it. Um, it hurts my feelings a little bit, but I want to talk to you about it because you know me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the that could be one way it can be used if we're talking about social media. I I would challenge everyone to do this is if you're watching or if you're scrolling and you're watching social media or you're listening to or with the comments, you know, look at the data and see if there's any type of patterns of what's happening. Right. So if you're comment creeping, like what is everyone saying, and then what is this person saying, and
Yeah.
then what's actually happening here. I mean, like, we're both researchers. We this is qualitative, right?
Right.
So we can see patterns in words, right? So these data points can help us understand, or may help us understand, like, these are crucial conversations that need to be had in public. So, for example, like what we're having right now is a crucial conversation. If you think about it, not in the sense of the capacity of oh, there's tension or there's something there, but it's like, yo, we're having this conversation because, one, we trust one another, and then two, these are topics that maybe others want to listen to, or they can gain some knowledge or something from it. Right?
Right.
I care about you. I care about you. Uh, I really don't. There's not too much I disagree with. That's not the topic, but I'm listening to your data points. I'm like, okay, well, social media is a good idea to use for this because because I didn't think about that. Now it's a good way, of seeing the world. So I'm like, yeah, let's use social media. Um, we're talking about facts and feelings. So all this is wrapped up into a crucial conversation. Does it look different? Yes, but it's still a crucial conversation. And so I'm hoping people, if you're looking at social media from a perspective of, this is where you're getting your information from, just be very mindful of the data points you're looking at. That's the first place to start, you know,
No doubt.
um, you know, and then again from there, is it worth having a conversation with someone about it or that person, right?
Yeah.
That's huge because if you go into it wanting to be right, like we were saying, if you go into it wanting to be right, nothing's gonna happen.
Okay, so let's talk about when it is a person, right, that you do have a certain relationship with, where you're able to correct each other or able to give advice to each other that is taken not personal but taken with the purpose of, bettering yourself or improvement, self-improvement.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and I know that you touched on some of the steps, right? But
Mhm.
what else does that look like or consist of? How do you approach that as opposed to approaching it when it's someone online or somebody that's, you don't care about? Obviously, you want to avoid being the person arguing with a fool, because then you look like a fool.
Sure, sure. So I'll say this first. In order to approach, you have to feel safe. So you need to go on this asking a few questions. So here's what's crazy about it. I have to start back because this what I'm telling right now is working in the perfect world.
All
But
good.
what we typically see though from people is they want to have crucial conversations after all the hurt and things have been done. So it's kind of hard to unwrap your mind to a new approach because sometimes you might say, "Well, we tried everything under the book and nothing works." So now you're telling me to try a crucial conversation, right? So it may take time to build that trust to get into someone's circle of being vulnerable because a crucial conversation is very vulnerable. A crucial conversation is not about winning. A crucial conversation should be about this is how I feel based on the facts. So this is what led to the feelings that I have of like, yo, man, I felt like you disrespected me. This is what you said. I'm paraphrasing it. I'm hurt. That takes time to get there, right? So going back to your original question, what approach? Well, the first approach is, check yourself. You know, when I'm going into this, if I really want to approach this person and I care about this relationship, what are maybe, I know Kevin Hart made fun of this, but it's true. What are some safe words? Hey, I really want to have a conversation with you. And I may say a few words because I know
Pineapples.
right, pineapples. Seriously, it's funny, but it's true because
Right.
words say so. Safe words help you check yourself because you're not because
Yeah.
that means you care about that person. You said it wrong. Pineapples. Oh, okay. Well, let me try it this way. So it's a work in progress, right? It's not just the approach has to be you focus, then bring that person along. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does.
Okay. Okay. I think one thing. So let's take the approach of hey, uh, you know, uh, I want to have this conversation with you. So let's just say moving forward. So the other person says, okay, I think I'm ready to have this conversation. Now here comes the cold part right here. Now you have to do you have to listen to what the person is telling you.
Man.
Wait. It gets better. Wait.
Man.
It gets better. So now the crazy part is how are you listening? How are you listening? Now,
Man. Man.
so I was in therapy. I was in therapy. I've been in therapy for like over 2 years now. And I've been down and out because I had to get like a new therapist and stuff. But both of them are cool dudes. But I was going through something, man. Yeah, true story. I was going through because I love the story. Because I'm still working at Crucial Conversations, but my therapist, we were talking. I said, I was working with some of my teammates, and they said to me, "I don't care." And I said to my therapist, I was like, "Yo, man," I know they didn't mean like any ill will or harm, but they said they didn't care. And I was like, "There's something going on." And he says, what they're saying is that you're not. They don't feel not that they don't feel respected, but they feel like you're not listening to them. So I wrote this down because I'm always taking notes. So I wrote this down. I was like, oh my goodness, I did not think about that. So the first thing I did, I kid you not, the next time we all met, I was like, hey, yo, look, um, I take full responsibility for when this said. I'm not saying that when you said you didn't care, I know you didn't feel that way, but I really had to think about this and learn for myself and figure out like you weren't saying that you didn't care about what we were doing. You're saying that you didn't care because I wasn't paying you. I wasn't listening. And I wasn't listening very well because it was after 5. I don't have too much in the gas tank. You don't either. So let's just find a way to communicate in the future. That's a crucial conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, you're not going to have these tools like you can't you don't do it once, you get it. It's okay to get help from someone so you can start having these conversations. Like you don't have to do all this stuff by yourself.
I think part of even being capable of having these crucial conversations, it requires a bit of humility, right? Like it requires a bit of you being open to or willing to say that like you don't have it figured out, right? And that you're capable of making a mistake. And even if you didn't make a mistake that caused this conversation, you might make a mistake in this conversation.
Mhm.
And I think having that level of humility and self-awareness, I think is super important, because it shifts the way the conversation goes, right? Like even just what you were saying, it's like I could be talking to somebody and having a conversation, and I could be 100% vulnerable, right? But if I'm not aware that of how my conversation, or how the language that I'm using, of how the tone of voice, of how that impacts someone else, if I'm not aware of that, then ultimately the conversation shifts based on I'm just thinking I'm right, right? And I'm thinking that I have this super 100% flawless approach to everything, versus having the approach that like, hey, maybe someone might be offended by what I say, or how I said it, or like you did with your therapist saying, like, hey, like this is what they said, this is how I perceived it, and they were like, well, what they're actually trying to convey is, right? But it took you having the humility and saying, hey, before I start spazzing out and talking about what you mean you don't care, let me talk to somebody else. And I will say, I think that's a benefit of therapy, because I know you say you've been doing it for about 2 years now. I've been doing it for almost, it'll be 5 years this August that I've been doing
Congratulations.
therapy, right? I appreciate it. And I think that has that that's showing based on that story, because I've done a ton of things, right? Where things have happened in my life and I said, let me hold on to that before I respond to it. Let me hold on, because I don't want to react. And my mom used to say all the time, dogs react, humans respond. Which one are you? Right. So before I react to it, let me take a moment, process it, and then let me bring it to my therapist on our session, so
Mhm.
that I can talk to him about it, see how he interprets it, and then I will respond to it. So there's been times where I've literally told people, give me some time. And I
Yeah.
won't tell them what the reason is. I tell them it's about processing, but it's really because I want to make sure that I can connect with a person who's emotionally removed from the circumstance, right? Emotionally removed from the situation. So they don't have the same emotional tie to it. All they're doing is listening to the facts that
Mhm.
I'm telling them, right? So it's from my perspective,
Mhm.
and they're able to give me like a clear sight of, or a different perspective of things. So it takes a level of humility for sure.
Yeah, no, it takes a level of humility. It takes time, right? Like, think about it. Every Wise Word Wednesday we've done, nothing, everything that we've talked about, it's not a, oh, I did it once, I get it, right? Don't forget when you and I talked about the whole martial arts thing, right? The better you get, the more awareness you're going to become, and the conversations are going to get deeper, and people, in my opinion, this is from my perspective, people tend to test you different ways now that you're aware of these things. So, for example, you might have a crucial conversation with a loved one, and a family member comes and says, "Well, how come you go help this person out? You're not helping me out, or how come you go do these things for this person?" And this, that, and the third. And you're like, "Well, dang, are they even considering how I'm feeling right now?" Or now that your eyes become open, like what's happening? Well, what's happening now is that your world is shifting, and you're starting to get your I'm gonna use it like in the martial art. You're getting better. Just because you're getting better doesn't mean it gets easier, and that's where people have the assumption, because you have a crucial conversation, it should get easier. No, when you have a crucial conversation, you're practicing daily, or whenever you decide to do it, of, okay, this is the message I just want to convey to the person that I care about. I value it. I'm not doing, the minute you go and saying I need to do this, the practice, you want to get better, the outcome is what you shouldn't be concerned about. So, for example, like with my team, right? The I don't care thing. So I care about them, and all the outcome that I wanted from me was like, I hear you, I hear you loud and clear, and I just want to let you know I do recognize you, and my behavior of being tired at that time, I could have handled it differently. That's it. I'm not going into it with a, well, they gotta know how I feel, and I'm gonna get through how I feel, and I don't care what this is, but win or lose, I'm gonna get it across. Like, no, like that's you're defeating your whole purpose of what you're trying to achieve. Hope that makes sense. I know I'm kind of.
No, no, it does. It does. And I also want to acknowledge Tori commented again and said, I think that if you don't truly care or respect someone, you won't be able to have those crucial conversations without one party being disrespectful. I agree. I think, when the person's not invested, right? That's what I'll say. I'll say it's an investment, right? To care about somebody. It's an investment to respect somebody. That is an investment, right? And so if you don't have that investment, then yeah, I can understand why a person is okay with getting disrespectful. And I think this is where that social media aspect of it, right? Because we're becoming detached from actual people, and we're kind of seeing them constantly as just this abstract, name, right? Or this isolated, this isolated person that doesn't really matter in life, as opposed to seeing them as a human being. And I think the people that have always had this, or not always, but the two people that developed this the fastest is our celebrities, right? Like, because they're the people that have constantly had people coming up to them, talking to them, right? But on the internet, it'll be like, oh, you suck, boo, your music is trash, you're gonna get hurt if you ever come here. Athletes, celebrities, right? It's like, oh, boo, we hate you, you suck, you're the worst ever. Like, people have all this stuff to say about people like Russell Westbrook, or Russell Wilson, or Aaron Rodgers, right? They have all these things to say about them. But if that individual was to walk into a room where they're in, they're like, hey, Russ, like, Westbrook, bro, you one of the top 75 MVP. Like, bro, you're the best, Mr. Triple Double, right? So it's like, because when it's online, you don't see them as human. You
Mm.
don't see them as a real person. You just see them as this abstract area that you feel like you could say whatever to. But having those conversations and having that investment when it's really in front of you, oh, you can't talk the way you was talking on the internet, because Westbrook is 6'4". He
Yeah,
don't play. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's a lot to unpack here, especially when it comes to social media and communication. Um, One thing I want to go back to, that you're talking about, this is idea of just human beings.
Mm.
whether it's on the internet, whether you're in front of that person or not. Um, I'm of the mindset now that social media allows us to put a curtain up when we want to and take it down when we want to, and we can play the facade any way we want to, which is fair, which is fair. Um, but I challenge you and anyone here is uh, uh, lay off of social media and stop taking it so personal. Um,
Hmm.
like take a break from it. You really don't need it that bad. It's not. It doesn't enhance your life. It's
Right.
it's 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 all a mind thing, right? Like, I can see if you're going there to look for workouts. If you're going there to look for a different way to do things, that's cool. I get that. Like, I can see the driven there, but it shouldn't be my opinion. It shouldn't be a place for you to have valued debates or discussions about an opinion, right? That's and so I'm saying to the people, take a break, like, like take a break, read a book, uh read a poem, do something, write, journal, take a break from it. And then if there's something and then you feel like you have to write, if you feel that something is getting you riled up, write it down. Why am I so emotionally attached to this? What is it about this comment that's driving me that's so emotional? Like,
Well, I
what?
think
Huh?
I think in regards to, not to cut you off, bro, but
No,
I
go
think,
ahead.
you know, two things. One, I remember this quote that Denzel Washington said a couple years ago. He said, "If you don't think that you're addicted to it, put it down for a week and see how you react. If you can't put it down for a week, you're addicted to it, right? So that's one thing.
Yeah,
But I think he was saying, not even that, aside from that, I think the way that a person, what I've come to recognize over my time in social media is like the way that a person responds or posts or comments in a debate says more about that individual to me than it does what they actually said. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
Because what I recognize is with this social media, bro, people are hurting.
Mhm. Oh
I mean,
yeah,
people internally like are going through it. But the
yeah,
thing is, they don't realize that they're hurt.
yeah.
Like
Yes.
you have to be very, very hurt to go to a page or another human being's very hurt or detached or whatever word you want to use for it, but to go to another person that you don't know and to publicly criticize them.
So here's our challenge. If we decide to take this challenge, you and I, how do we reach the hurt people? How do we talk to the hurt people?
Well, I
That's
will say
that's.
there's this thing called Wise Word Wednesdays every week. They can tune into, you know what I'm saying? Just
I'm
letting them
hoping.
know we gonna be out here. You feel me?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, right. That's why we talk. You and I talk, right? There were
Mhm.
topics that like and I appreciate you. You want to cover them. I'm like, nah, let's. Not that I disagree with him. Like, we what we've built so far is that we really want to reach people who are hurt. Like, yo, we get it. You know, I got a homie that's been reaching out to me recently. Uh, he made a post on Facebook. He bless his heart, like he comes from a space where it's like, yo, he really wants to get it for his family. He really and I love his job. He's like, yo, my family, I want to do all these great things. And I said to him, I said, so at the end of the day, what's the goal? He says, to get money. I said, well, reevaluate that. I said, I say this is if you're not a problem solver, then you have the game backwards. Get money is one thing, but what are you actually trying to do?
Right.
And so we started talking. So this is a crucial conversation because this got really, really deep. I'll tell you why in a second. So he's like, okay, well, I need to, I'm trying to build this business, such, this, and the third. I said, cool. I said, okay. I said, so where's your elevator pitch? Like, you don't have too much time with me. Pretty much he's like, what's that? And I said, okay. I said, well, then, you know, if you're building something, how many customers you have? Customers, he mentioned like 4 or 5. I said, you need between 40 and 50. And he's like, little bro, I don't think I can do that. I was like, no, no, no. not that you think one. I said you're gonna do. If you're working with me, you're gonna do it. Like
Right.
there's no you're not gonna waste my time, not in a disrespectful way, but you're gonna do it. Tell me about that later. All of what you don't. So then, we get into the conversation, and certain things started happening. So you can tell, at least from my perspective, there was a shift of, do I really want to go down this route? Right. And so I saw that shift happening. I'm like, no, come back. You can still do it. It just doesn't look the way that you want it to look. So let's go back to the point of the crucial conversation of what's going on and why I bring this up. There was a lot of times in that conversation, he would say things like, well, I watched this video, or I watched this, or, hey, little bro, I seen this thing for a certain amount of dollars that I believe is going to help me with my business. Like, no, stop. Like, stop. Everyone just needs to stop. Like, if you're invested in a crucial conversation, and I'm hoping everyone's listening to this, and they need to find, my opinion, this is a place of refuge, and there's no judgment here when we talk. If you're not selecting someone to talk to or have a crucial conversation with, like when we first talked about, then you're not gaining anything that's of added value to you. Because 9 times out of 10, you're gonna that person that's responding to you, that's next to you, they're on the same. I don't even use the word level. What am I looking for here? I hate that word level.
Frequency.
They see the world the same way that you see it from their eyes, right? So like for example, he's like, yeah, my man gave me this video, and it's all about candles and stock markets and KDP and all these things. I'm like, you invest in all this, and he really, like, at one point he said, yeah, I want to get $4,000 a month, but the investment is zero. And I was like, yo, bro, like, that just doesn't make any sense. But this is like, how do I say this? I think he spoke to a few people that were cheering this on. And I'm like, yo, no one's having this conversation to say this ain't it.
Yeah, it's not a good investment.
This ain't it.
Not a good return on investment. There's no ROI in that one.
But that's a crucial conversation, though. Yeah. Like he was. I loved him for that, because he was being vulnerable. He was speaking his truth, and and I applauded him for that, because by the time I got the phone, he was texting me. I love him to death. He's like, you was mad at me, weren't you? I was like, what you mean? He's like, well, because every time I say something like I watch the video or something, your eyes and your teeth just grit. I was just like, I wasn't mad at you or nothing like that. I just social media is not it for what you're trying to do, for people. So yeah.
And a lot of people, get caught up in those traps, right? Like get caught up in there's a lot of people, I'm gonna call them predators, right? On social media. A lot of people, like, I get a bunch of ads that pop up on my page. Well, you could do this and make this, and you can have this and do this and invest in this. And it's like, without having the proper support, if you don't already have the knowledge yourself, right, then that's when you need to be able to get the knowledge from somewhere. And sometimes getting the knowledge means finding where to even go to get the knowledge, right? So it's like, if I don't know this information, but I know Corn knows more about this particular subject, well, I'm gonna go to Corn. Yeah, I don't know it, but at least I know how to get to the source, right? How to get to the information. And I think there's just a lot of predators out there. It's almost like, I know you remember back in the days, they had commercials, right? Where they would be like, they only came on, I would say, around 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it would be like, buy the instant abs. You take this pill or you do this ab machine and you'll get rock solid abs in a month. And they'll show a bunch of people out there with rock solid abs. And it's like, yeah, but these are people between the ages of 18 and 24, 25, right? So their metabolism is very different. 2, these are people who work out all the time, and they're not just doing this here ab machine. Yes, this is one of the many different things that they do to have these abs, but they're advertising it specifically to people who are up late at night, eating some ice cream, chilling on their couch and saying, you know what, I don't want to do the real work, but I want to get some instant abs. Boom, I'm gonna go buy this product. I feel like that's what we're seeing on social media right now.
I'll tell you even deeper. I'll tell you what's even deeper than that. So you remember how you said 10 o'clock at night during those times of the day, right?
Yep.
So the physical activity, you would say they're what? the physical activity based on watching that, you'll say it's what? Pretty what?
It's pretty
Like
low.
exactly, it's pretty low, right? So
Yeah.
that so now watch this. If their physical activity is low, how do you think their brains are?
Ooh. Yeah, they in struggle mode for sure.
So what I mean is, so again, this is no judgment. So
Right.
the point I'm making is if I show you something shiny of what you can get, you're not thinking about the data points. You're not thinking about the data points that or asking the right questions about the data points. So you said I can get abs in a month. Well, how many exercises do I have to do a day? Uh, am I taking supplements? Like all these questions that need to be asked. Is this really even true? And so what these smart people that create these ads, what they're saying is like, well, there may be some type of association or correlation between them watching this late with snacks in their hand and their thought process. That makes sense. That makes sense. What I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the thought process is low, as we're saying, is low. Then they're definitely going to call us right away.
Well, it's crazy because it's like they've trained themselves to be prey. You know what I'm saying? To be preyed upon in a sense, like, because if you think about it, right? Because it's like their weakness in regards to the struggles that they have is what's being preyed upon. But if they had, better, and again, this isn't just talking about like body. I'm saying anything, right? Like
Sure.
it's using your algorithm against you. You know what I'm saying? In a sense, like they're going to sell you things that they know you want to buy. Like if they know that, I'm a sneakerhead. I like shoes. I like buying kicks. So what's going to pop up when I go to my search of things to buy? Shoes. That's what's gonna pop up because they know, and I'll get the notification on my phone from the sneakers app. Oh, these shoes are about to come out, and I'm like, oh snaps, let me look at them. Right? It's literally using my own weakness against me, right? So I'm like I'm actively participating in me being preyed upon.
I agree to disagree with what you said, and here's why I disagree.
Okay.
Being a sneakerhead is not the end of the world if it's in your capital to afford that.
Right. True that. True that.
Right. So you're not really being a predator, or they just know you. Now let's talk about the so. But again, going back to what you're saying, you're right though. There is some level of someone being a predator, if you will, if you want to call it. There's some level to that. The level is because you say people are training themselves, and I think what you're saying is that they don't know how to unlearn what they've learned.
Right.
Right. So you've been doing this for so long that when you see it on social media, and you've been on social media for so long that you're not gonna unlearn what's already there for you. So I'm gonna watch this political party because it's what I know. I'm gonna do these things. I'm gonna purchase all this because it's again not sneakers though. I'm talking about like the workout stuff. I'm gonna purchase all these things because of one, I want quick money, or I want to make quick money. I want quick results, and two, I don't want to use too much brain power. Right. So that's where we're losing the people to your point. That's where we're losing folks, and I don't have an answer. I believe the great start is Wise Word Wednesdays. I think it's a great start, and I think I would challenge us. If people start wanting to talk, like, yo, let's have that conversation with real people, right? Like, yo, if you want to talk about it, let's hear it. Because you and I can only do so much.
Right.
Right. We would need someone to say, hey, yo, look, this is where I stand. And, I need to talk through this. And I hope that people are grasping that, that we're being vulnerable. We talk about therapy. We talk about different. We talk about things like, car repossess, all that. So hopefully people are watching this with that level of vulnerability of saying, remember when you talked about like someone like they lost it all and they got it back type of thing?
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you the devil in the detail what it means to lose it all.
Right.
I'm not gonna just say I lost a car. It's like, nope, I didn't pay that bill, or nope, this is what I was doing. Like, because that's what people want to hear.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. They don't want to hear it, but they need to hear it. That's the thing. Because
right,
they just want to hear I lost it all and got it all back. They
right,
need what they really need to know is why you lost it all,
yeah,
as well as what steps you took to be
yeah,
able to get to the
yes,
point where you're able to get it back.
yes,
Because I think that's super critical too.
yes, yes. And so that's what, I'm hoping that people gain when we do this, right? Like, we don't want nothing from you, but to have a conversation started with your loved ones and your family members and say, hey, you know what do you think about this? Have we tried to do this? Because everything that we've done is actually in the series. If you really take notes on it, it's by design. It hasn't been by just it's all by design of how do we make people, I don't want to call them more intelligent or anything, but just another way of thinking.
Yeah.
Um, I share another point with you. I was talking about this with Dr. Orr, just dope ass person. That's the homie. Um, when we were talking about making more intelligent, smarter entrepreneurs, one thing that we stressed on is that how do you teach? I don't want to use regular people. How do you teach entrepreneurs just at a basic level? How do you teach them how to research? Because we know what it takes to research.
Right.
How do you teach people basic research skills? Because that's a skill that at times can be overlooked. And that's probably one of the biggest things that could save you money from spending on something if you do the proper research. Now, to your point, guess what they do in the research?
Social media. Social
This
media.
video said this video. It's not that's not research. Like,
Yeah.
so, we'll talk this about this another day, but one of our big things is, again, this is through crucial conversations, right? Like, how do we tell people, like, if you're going into a business, before all this stuff that you think to be good and true, how do you know people want it? What research are you actually doing? And so far, the people we've worked with, no clue. No clue. They
Right.
bought LLCs, S corps. They bought all these things because they were told to, because they believed with I lost it all, I got it back, and this is how it is. Instead of saying, well, wait, that content doesn't necessarily fit my context, so I did this because of whatever reason.
No, man, I think that's real, and I think I think that kind of speaks to, again, going back to the data points, right? Like we can only help so much from our own data points, right? From our own experiences, but like we would love to hear from people about your experiences so that way we could, show in what ways we can support or help or understand the nuances, right? So to give better support and better advice. The whole purpose of these Wise Word Wednesdays is to make sure that we put the information out there. But if we need to shift certain things to be able to make it more relatable, make it more relevant, or make it more applicable, we need to hear that so that
Mhm.
we can do that. You know what I mean? We have no problem in doing that. I know that we're coming up on an hour, so I want to just allow you to get any last minute. I know you typically like to have people leave notes or check some things out, or any last minute things that you want to make sure you let the people know of.
Yeah, just look into the ladder of inference. At its most basic form. Hell, chat GPT it, whatever you got to do, and to where it makes sense to you. But I really challenge people when having a crucial conversation. One, the outcome cannot be win or lose. It cannot be about that. It has to be uh, something that meshes well together, if you will. So, what type of outcome works for everyone, right? Another thing, the relationship with the person. So, if that relationship is valued, then the crucial conversation becomes even more important. Also, separating your feelings from facts. Uh, Facts need to drive the crucial conversation that lead to the behavior. So, again, as we were talking, if if I feel disrespected because you said something, I'm using facts. And then we could talk about, you know, was I right or the interpretation? Well, not right, but what am I missing here, right? And also think about, again, those data points. But the data points come through the ladder of inference, and what we're saying here is that the data that you're probably using to make your decisions or assumptions could be wrong, and it's okay if they could be wrong. You just have to find different data points to use. Like when I talk to my therapist, I don't care how I totally see it. I did not see it coming from a space of, Corn, you're not listening to me. Didn't think about it that way. I just thought they didn't, care for some other reason. But so that's what I'm gonna leave with people. Just to those little things. Hopefully, it's helpful.
Man, I definitely appreciate it, and I hope that I'll leave just y'all with just recognizing, man, that you know you're going to have some crucial conversations at throughout your life, and I think that what makes them crucial is uh, where they're going to shift or how they're going to shift where you go, and I think it's super important that you're aware of yourself, aware of how you communicate, aware of triggering words for yourself, aware of things that could potentially that you could say that could potentially ruin opportunities for you. But not only that, but also aware of who you can talk to, right? Aware of who's actually going to be for your benefit versus who's going to set you up. I'll be talking to students sometimes, or people who graduated from like UC Berkeley, and they would be telling me like when they were in undergraduate classes, people would give them notes to make them fail. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? To make
Mm.
them mess up in class, right? Intentionally, because they're like, I don't want you to get a better grade than me. I want to be the number one student at Berkeley. So they'll send them something, you know what I mean? Oh, you need the notes? I got the notes for you. Here you go. And it's basically, like a placebo. You know what I'm saying? They basically giving you some messed up stuff. So I think it's really, really important to make sure that and you're aware of who you can even talk to that has your best interest at heart, as opposed to just going to give you some information that's going to steer you in the wrong direction. But regardless, these conversations are going to happen in your life, and they're going to be absolutely necessary. So I encourage you to take full advantage. We're here. You know what I mean? We can have some crucial conversations with you. We're open to that. And also, if you want to send us anything, if you want to, have some conversations, reach out, man. We're definitely more than happy to have that for you. We could do it on air, off air, or however you want to do it. But again, the whole purpose of this is to be able to give you some information that could help you in the long run. So I want to say once again, shout out to my man Corn for being on the show once again. We'll definitely reconnect or reconvene relatively soon. Shout out to you all for tuning in. For those that, quite a few people that came through today on the IG live, and shout out to the folks from the YouTube live. Shout out to Tori for leaving a couple of comments. We appreciate you. And I'll leave you like I typically do in saying that we fresh, and I love you, and I will see you next time. Y'all take care.